While we're waiting for our guest, I did want to talk just at the beginning of the show, just to get our juices flowing. I'm still thinking about the epic thread from yesterday that I consider an important historical document. I'm not going to say the person's name because that would be mean and we'll get in trouble for it. But it's the HFA alum who just wants everyone to know that contrary to what everybody is saying, that they were loveless and joyless.
Which is definitely, that's been the talk. That's what people are arguing about, is how much fun they had during the Hillary campaign.
I love that that's the thing they picked up from Donna Brazil's book. And I also love the idea of going back in time and telling the HFA people who were probably figuring out what the dimensions of their office in the State Department was going to be like, telling them, well, you're not going to be in the White House, but you will be doing tweet storms proving that you have friends.
You know what?
That's going to be an important thing you're going to be doing a year from now. I'm just going to say the name. It's Hillary Clinton was the candidate. Hillary did it.
Well, this is what I find incredible about this thread is that it goes on to just post all of these basically yearbook photos from the campaign to prove what good friends they all were and how much fun they were having. But all of the photos just portray what unbelievably boring people like their idea of fun is an office job, and Matt and I were talking about this earlier, and just the way this person talks about basically her coworkers in an office is just so stunning to me, because it's all just stuff like
you think you have had a good desk mate. Well, let me tell you about Steve. No one in history has ever thought I have a good desk mate.
Band of dullards.
Yeah.
I like how that they were like, we did courageous hard work of losing the campaign, but we also had fun. And they think that it's outstandingly fun-looking stuff, but it looks like any photo from LinkedIn I've seen. It's just all the people. It's my favorite thing that sort of upper middle-class office culture people do, which is they post a picture of junk food, and they're all like, I can't believe we're going to eat this.
Yeah,
whoa, don't have too much fun, guys.
The looks in their faces with those pictures, they honestly, it's such forced merriment.
Yeah.
It looks like they should all be holding newspapers with the day's date on it to prove proof of life. After being kidnapped.
Do you people do drugs or anything cool?
No.
They
They do Xanax, but it's Xanax because every time they're in the office, there's a chance that a 70-year-old woman comes in and screams at them and goes, can we do an ad that says I'm a thought?
But there's also bits about how they got tattoos together and
What?
stuff.
Yeah.
What did they get a tattoo of?
They got prison stick and pokes. They got the John Podesta triangle tattoo.
They also did staged readings of Will and Grace scripts.
That
What?
blows me away. That
What?
blows me away.
Yo, is there a video of that?
Yes, there is.
Yo,
There's
play
a
that. Play
Snapchat
that,
video
please.
of these people
Please play that.
doing a fucking Will and Grace staged reading in their offices.
And that's exactly
Okay.
what it
Meanwhile,
sounds like.
meanwhile, retirees in Michigan are saying, please let me get lawn signs. And they're like, fuck you. He's doing an amazing jack right now.
Please play the Will and Grace. I didn't read the thread because it was 280 characters, and who's got time for
Yeah,
that
and
shit?
every one was 280 characters, which is the most psychopathic thing I've ever seen. Somebody doing a tweet thread where they use 280 for every fucking one. Nightmare.
I'm glad that they gave when they were giving out 280 characters, they gave it to Saxon Fury 1488 and Cressida Smunk to prove that she had friends. Those are the only two.
Cressica Smunch.
Yeah, if you're a white Hillary, there are two types of white people. It's the people who work for Hillary or write for The Guardian called Cressica Smunch, and then there are the Midwest fentanyl headphone stealers who are all named Jeff Dunk. Those are the only two types of whites.
Wait, so just two in a row. There's ones that includes a video of her and all their office mates singing fight song together on stage.
Oh, wait,
and
can I hear that at least?
you know what the song sounds like.
I want to hear how good they
No.
Well, here's
And then the next one just goes and then the way the self-regard they have for their friends is just that says, beautiful, courageous, you made my whole life so better. We saw Wonder Woman twice in theaters.
At what point did you try to win
that's
the election?
crazy.
And then
Wait, they saw a movie together?
And then the best, though, that I think is an actual historical document is video of Robbie Mook literally popping a bottle of champagne on the night they clinched the primary, which is yeah, we won that thing that was literally designed for us to win it. And then it's just on to the general.
Yeah,
And they show Mook failing to pop the fucking bottle, which should have been an omen.
Yeah. Did he look up data tables around pressure points that you could open the bottle with?
Apparently not.
Yeah. No, I mean it's
Just use your thumbs.
Of course, the main criticism of the campaign was that they didn't have enough fun. That they didn't sit around. Damn, son, where'd you find this? We got Xanax, Moscato, and pizza. Come to the trap.
Matt, find the Will and Grace reading though. That's better.
So this just
It's hard to actually hear what they're saying. It's only like a 10-second clip.
So this just validates like exactly what you expected the campaign having been, and what the guts of the campaign were, just run by daft, out of touch, upper class imbeciles.
Walking Pinterest boards.
Yes.
That's who these people are.
And then the last one is just goes, our campaign was full of joy and laughter, heartbreak and love. No one can ever tell me different. I will be grateful for the rest of my life to have been a part of it. Thank you for the 540 hardest and best days of my life. And it's just like
we were a princess, a jock, a dying woman, a spirit cooker,
It's just like
a war criminal.
it's just the unbearable self-regard of these people to think that anybody gives a fuck whether they made friends or had fun losing this election. It's astonishing. Like
I'm glad that we all have to have the fucking senile president who goes to Japan and asks them if they can use sushi to block missiles. I'm glad that that was the price we had to pay for these people making jokes about how it's wine o'clock.
I will be grateful for the rest of my life, for all the friends that I made, all the joy and laughter working in the Weimar Republic. Yeah. Obviously, things went bad at the end there, but
Another photograph of fork stuck in the road.
it's something unpredictable, but in the end it's true. Donald Trump is really our president. All right, we are back, and joining us this week, we have Aída Chávez of the Intercept to talk about Puerto Rico. Aída, you've just gotten back from Puerto Rico. You were there last week. Mm-hmm. You went there to follow Bernie.
Yeah, I did.
What was Bernie doing in Puerto Rico?
So you know the whole controversy with the whole women's convention thing?
Right.
Yeah, so he announced his trip right after that, and so a lot of people were mad about that because they thought oh, how convenient. But really, he was going just to survey the damage and listen to people's stories and talk to different government officials, people in energy, locals themselves, and just kind of get an idea of what they're going through. Because
Well, we wanted to have you on because Puerto Rico is what's going on in Puerto Rico right now is a massive story that has, basically been shuffled out of our sort of consciousness by the churn of just daily events in our kind of hyper-normalized world, if we're going to go off that just crazy things just keep happening and then go away without much context, and just we're on to the next thing. But we feel like Puerto Rico definitely deserves to be talked about on the show. And before we get into what you wrote and some of the background about the political and economic situation in Puerto Rico, even before the hurricane, I just want to ask you what was it like visiting the island post hurricane? Like what did you see?
it was really shocking to be there. I really couldn't wrap my head around the damage and everything I was seeing, because it was like an already poor island and the natural disaster just took it back to the Stone Age. I guess the fact that a month later there's still people looking for food, water, and most people don't have electricity, to me is really outrageous.
Where did you spend the majority of your time on the island?
So I stayed in San Juan, which was the area least affected by the hurricane, but things are still pretty bad there. It's completely in the dark basically. But I did go into the center of the island for a bit, a couple days, where things are worse. And I did take an a day to go to Vieques, which is an island in Puerto Rico. So they're having a hard time too because like it's even more difficult to get supplies there since it's an island.
In the first like 2 weeks around the hurricane, there was a big thing about a lack of drinking water. Has that gotten any better for anyone there, or is it just a case of something falling off the map and we all assume it's kind of fine now?
It's still a problem for a lot of people, and the thing is, like, a town might get like a truckload of supplies, but then what happens in 2 weeks? You know, it's something that is a constant struggle for a lot of places. Just driving by, I still saw some people like doing the things with like the tubes where they try to get like running water. You know, not sure if that's safe because I don't know if you guys heard when the EPA told people to not drink from like Superfund sites. So people are desperate enough to where they don't even care if it's like poison water. They just want water.
I mean, we've heard, there was a news story about surgeries being performed via just cell phone light. Because recent reports say that there's still approximately 1 million people without access to safe drinking water, 3 million without power. And then just last week, I saw an incredibly chilling story about how emergency services and crematoriums specifically have been given the green light to just start incinerating bodies, as many as 900 that are now listed as dying of natural causes, so they don't go towards the official hurricane death count, which currently stands at about 50. But that's 900 people who have just been basically, just erased.
Yeah, completely. I actually was hearing about that from people before I went down there when I started talking to people. Because I started off not knowing anyone in Puerto Rico, so I started, like, you know, making sources and making friends and stuff, and just right off the bat, someone told me, like, yeah, like, actually, like, my grandpa died because the hospital, like, didn't have electricity, and so he's being considered, like, death by, like, natural causes, but, like, what's so natural about hospital not having electricity, so then someone dies? So
it's like it's the aftermath of the hurricane that is really killing people, but that isn't going towards the official death toll of the disaster itself.
Mm-hmm.
That was same type of thing happened with Katrina, and I think that's what we're going to have a lot more like climate disasters, and I think our horrifying new future is that we're going to get like death tolls of a few dozen at first. We're going to say, oh, that's like manageable. That's as much of a as you get with a mass shooting. And then, you know, the real death is what happens when your infrastructure is destroyed. But those, you're going to get the same juking of numbers you get like we did in Iraq, where we didn't count it as a combat death if somebody got shot in the back of the head.
Yeah, and Aída, when like so while you were there, I mean, you said like you were trying to make friends with people, develop sources. Like, does any one particular person or story stick out in your head?
I guess probably the story that like affected me the most was I went to Comerío, which is like it's outside of the metropolitan area, so they were hit pretty hard. It's like in a mountainous area, and I saw pictures of there before, and it was like absolutely beautiful. Just like it looked like it was out of like a fairy tale or something. Just everything was green, and when I went, everything was brown. Like there's just like no trees or anything. Everything is just like in ruins basically. But I figured I like just walk down the street and just see whoever I find and ask them how they're doing. And I started talking to this one woman, and she was just telling me how she like lost everything. She doesn't like have clothes or anything. She really needs bed sheets. And her daughter was standing in the background, and she was telling me that her daughter has like bipolar and major depression, and so going through the hurricane triggered like a really severe like traumatic episode in her, and so her arm like couldn't stop shaking, her left arm couldn't stop shaking, and she hasn't been able to like communicate with her doctor because, you know, hurricane, there's still not very good communication. The floods ruined her car, so she can't drive to the pharmacy to pick up her meds. And I guess that touched me personally because it's like, I know it's like to like need medicine or need like a psychiatrist or something and having a hard time like finding that help. I cannot imagine like going through such a traumatic experience and being left without like medicine, without help.
Being totally cut off.
Yeah, not having any kind of like psychiatric help, I guess. And that's what a lot of people were citing in that area. They were just like, I'm actually really traumatized and like I need a psychiatrist or therapist or someone to talk to. So
I mean, are the people angry at the state of recovery or lack thereof?
They are angry, but I felt like the prevailing mood was like optimism, like resilience. Like, we're just going to get through this, and, you know, the government isn't doing shit, so we're going to do this ourselves.
So there's still a strong like social fabric there. It's not like people are turning against each other, you know?
No, definitely. There's such a sense of camaraderie.
So not like I would do in a similar situation. I'd immediately cannibalize my neighbors.
There was a marathon today, and I was
God damn it.
I was considering joining the Islamic State today. I was considering doing that. I had the app open.
Something I've read is stories of private security guards, essentially mercenaries, holding long guns with body armor, without insignia in certain areas. Did you encounter anything like that?
Just once. And yeah, I've been hearing that from people too. I guess I just didn't happen to be in the areas at the right time. But yeah, I did hear that from people.
Is that like the case of like sort of the elite, the island hiring like ex-Blackwater or something like that? Or is it something weirder that we don't quite have a grasp on yet?
I think it's something weirder. I honestly don't know too much about it. And I read a couple articles about it, and even those were kind of vague. So
I mean, there were apocryphal stories post Hurricane Katrina that were like never confirmed officially about Blackwater, other like unidentified private security doing very shady things, like incinerating bodies was the story I heard, collecting dead people and incinerating the bodies to keep the official death count lower than it actually was. And there, of course, famously Chris Kyle's amazing story,
his heroically stopping the looters from the Super Bowl
it's hard
roof.
to say what's true and not in these situations, but the presence of these kind of unidentified private security firms in situations like this is extremely disturbing.
It definitely seems like a situation where accountability would definitely be on the agenda.
Yeah.
You'd definitely not be able to get away with whatever you wanted in that kind of situation.
What I've read is that Academy, which used to be Blackwater, is either there now or just bidding on certain security contracts on things like food and fuel and water deliveries.
Well, this gets into like the actual the news or the story that you filed based on Bernie's trip, which is all about this issue of contracting, right? Because obviously there's this huge need for things like infrastructure rebuilding or plumbing, electricity, so on and so forth, and Sanders, like his thing was that he said he's demanding, and he's on the House Energy Committee, or the Senate Energy Committee rather, and he says he is calling for them to nullify this $300 million contract between Puerto Rico and a company called Whitefish Energy Holdings, which is a Montana-based company that has 2 employees?
yeah.
Could you give just a little explanation of what Whitefish is and how they got this massive energy contract to rebuild Puerto Rico's power grid?
It was pretty weird for them to get the contract because 2-person company from Montana, so they don't have experience with large scale grid repair, and then most of the labor comes from people they're contracting, and they were just gonna get paid massive amounts of money. And so basically that was flagged, and then it got canceled. And that's not the only contract that's been going on. That's kind of weird. One I was looking at yesterday, it actually just got canceled, but it was basically Army body of engineers that's supposed to inspect schools to say when they're ready to open. They had a contract with this group that builds schools. And so some people called out that conflict of interest, how are they going to inspect schools if they build schools, And a lot of people were complaining about the delay in opening schools. And so it's why are they hiring all these private companies?
It's heartening, at least, that these things can be so cartoonishly corrupt that if you point the spotlight at them, they can be reversed. That was actually that was actually very pleasantly surprising was when the Blackfish thing got canceled, because it was so transparently crooked. And then these assholes were feuding with the San Juan mayor on Twitter, threatening to stop repairs because she criticized them. It's like, fuck, everyone is Trump now. Just fucking kill me.
That's probably why they got the contract. They just found whatever utility company argued with the trolls on Twitter. They're like, this is our type of people.
I did have a question though from your piece you write about PREPA, which is the Puerto Rican Electric. That's their sort of national utility company. They opted to hire the Whitefish to restore power for 3.4 million residents instead of going for what's called a mutual aid agreement that is what's usually used after other national disasters. Could you explain what the difference is between mutual aid and this kind of contracting with a private company?
Yeah, so like, for example, in Texas, they went for like the mutual aid thing where they don't go for a private company and things usually go way faster for less money.
Okay, so like basically in places like Houston or Louisiana, like the mutual aid agreement would be what governs the reconstruction of public infrastructure and things like that. Whereas in Puerto Rico, they're going with a private contracting model.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when I was reading your story, like all of this model of like, there's this, massive destruction, and then like the rebuilding contracts are doled out to these shady private companies that seem woefully unprepared for the job at hand. It really just echoed perfectly with the reconstruction of Iraq. Like this is like the standard business model. I mean, it reminded me of like when they sent like 24-year-old Heritage Foundation interns to like restart the Iraqi stock market or whatever.
Yeah.
Or just like all of these shady ass companies, like Blackwater being probably the biggest example, but all of the construction shit in Iraq too was done in a similarly completely opaque and corrupt manner.
Yeah, well, you have these contractors who are just an office and some people who don't actually do that job, and they get these lucrative contracts, and then they just subcontract it out to whoever they can.
We should change the name of our LLC and try to bid on one of these contracts.
Hey, we could get a contract.
Because we are technically a bunch of assholes in a room. That's where our office is registered.
Oh my God.
That's
yeah.
true.
We could literally get one. But so with like the whole like disaster capitalism thing, the thing that I've seen, like the hard right response to all this is like, oh yeah, like let's free Puerto Rico. Let's have it. They're their own state. We don't have to take care of anything. And it echoes that like Trump and the primary thing of like, we're spending all this money on the rest of the world. And it's interesting. I mean, like the disparity between the isolationist attitude that Trump sometimes displays and is generally the hard right position, what we have now. But it's like, they don't get it. They don't get that the grift is doing these things and doing these things shittily and not caring if people yell at you, because the entire point is taking care of people like Paul Singer, like one of the debt vultures to Puerto Rico, or whatever fucking asshole donated to Ryan Zinke's campaign so he could drive around in an H1 Hummer for his first congressional run. Like, they just, as much as they do get politics as a game of signifiers and a contest of resources, they don't get who's supposed to be rewarded in their version of events.
I guess like when I was reading this, I thought back to something I heard Timothy Shorrock say once, and he does a lot of reporting on government contracting, and he said something that's always stuck with me, that like whenever you see the word contracting, just think corruption, because that's what it is basically. Like with these giant government contracts, and like the fact that, like you said, it's just a couple guys in an office. They don't do the actual work, and then that they subcontract it out to God knows who.
Yeah, we're gonna call ourselves something like Eagle Head LLC, and then we're gonna get the contract to repair all of the Pornhub links that went broke.
The new company is just called Headshot Opportunities, and it's chartered in my living room, and it's me and Virgil. He's playing Overwatch and I'm playing Call of Duty, and we just call people on the phone and ask them if they know how to make bridges.
Efficiency. That's the thing about, you guys are complaining, but the contracting system is much more efficient.
Yeah,
it saves so much money.
Yeah, if you're not paying hundreds of millions of dollars for somebody to remember to make a phone call a week later, you're just not doing it right. That's how the free market works.
Well, I mean, how else are you going to provide essential services without using private contractors? What are you going to do? Have the military do it? Their track record has not been great recently.
Oh, but actually that reminds me, Aida, what was the U.S. military presence like in Puerto Rico?
I saw some of them at like one of the I don't know how to say it in English, but it's like one of the centers where they like keep the goods to like distribute, like goods from FEMA, but also private donors, and then like all that stuff. There were just some guys just chilling in the front, and even the people I was with, they were like, I don't understand why they're standing. What are they protecting? Like paper towels? Like,
so it wasn't like a massive military presence there?
a little bit. They said it wasn't as bad. They said as in the beginning. Like there were way more people there.
Were they
in the
standing?
beginning.
Were they standing like set up like a free throw line so Trump could throw the paper towels?
There's this big relief package that was approved by Congress the other day. That's this big $36 billion hurricane relief bill. But correct me if I'm wrong, only about $5 billion of that is going to go to Puerto Rico, and it's going to go to Puerto Rico in the form of a loan.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So it was like a small chunk of that money is for like the states affected by natural disasters. So that money is not just for Puerto Rico, but it's being split in between all these states. So Puerto Rico really isn't getting that much of like just like plain money. But the loan that you're referring to, that's just to keep the government running. It's 4.9 billion just to keep the government running, but it's not a grant, it's a loan, so they're gonna have to pay it back.
And this gets into the larger issue of Puerto Rican debt, because even before the hurricane, they were $74 billion in debt, mostly held by private Wall Street firms. How did Puerto Rico, and then just in 2016, Congress stripped control of their budget from the Puerto Rican government and is now basically controlled by Congress. They have no say over their state budget, basically, even though they're not really a state, but they are U.S. citizens. So how did Puerto Rico get $74 billion in debt in the first place?
They're sneakerheads.
Those new Yeezys.
Trump met them in the bar, like in casino, and was like, "You're a degenerate fucking gambler, you know that?"
You know you're a lying, low-life, motherfucking gambling degenerate prick. You know that's what you are?
Tell me you didn't gamble that money.
Did you spend that on water resources, you fucking piece of shit?
Fucking kids at home. Here, get the fuck out of here.
So but even going on, like before this, there was the issue of Puerto Rican debt and then the possibility of debt forgiveness. So could you talk a little bit about how did Puerto Rico get into this situation? Because obviously it's already hobbles their ability to borrow money, period, let alone, and then now they have this massive disaster where basically the entire country is without power or water, which would, hobble their ability to do anything, but they're still on the hook for all this money. And so there's this question about, could you talk a little bit about how Puerto Rico got in debt to Wall Street so deeply, and if there's any possibility that they'll be able to get out of it?
So I actually, that's what I was working on before my trip. Was I'd go up to the Hill and ask senators and House members, how would you feel about the idea of Puerto Rico's debt being wiped out completely? And honestly, no one's really a policy wonk, so a lot of them didn't really have a good answer to give me. But a lot of Republicans were just no, you get yourself into debt. It's your responsibility to get out of it. Yeah,
you had some pretty good quotes here about people for instance, Orrin Hatch of Utah. You asked him what about the possibility of, in light of this disaster, completely wiping out their debt. And he said that though he agreed with the sentiment, he says, "I wish we could, but that just isn't the way the economic system works." And then also said that someone else reported that there would be a drastic and highly unusual intrusion of the government into debt markets. It may possibly be the end of municipal bond market as we know it.
Yeah, I hate it when the government gets involved with the municipal bond market. You fucking idiot. My favorite thing was it was before all this, when Puerto Rican debt was still a pretty big thing during the GOP primary there, which Marco Rubio won. But before he won, he made a remark about how he had student loan debt and he paid it off the responsible way by doing a bunch of weird land deals and having secret families.
Okay, sorry. It's just the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, Mark Meadows, said that doing a grant rather than a loan to Puerto Rico would be unfair to states that have been, quote, fiscally responsible.
Yeah, I read the conversation that we had several times, and I still didn't understand what he was saying, because I asked him why why alone? Why not just give them the money? It's not even that much money, really.
Again, is the federal government loaning money to Houston to rebuild?
Exactly. So that's what I was asking is like, why should Puerto Rico be responsible for repaying their own relief efforts when Houston isn't? And his answer was basically, you see, if we just give them the money, if we just give them a grant, that's not going to get paid back. And if we give them a loan, well, that probably won't get paid back either. So a loan.
But it's
Like,
the
he
principle,
said
though.
that.
But it's the principle.
Yes,
that, like,
exactly.
The principle of having something over them to kind of as a disciplinary mechanism.
It would ruin our economic system of getting them in debt. They relapse on heroin. They have to sell their ME. And then they have to write a horror movie that you make with your mob boss and then die shortly after. This is the Cleaver joke.
And
from Sopranos
like,
season
I don't
6.
think a lot of people know that there's actually a federal judge presiding over Puerto Rico's like debt case, and she already agreed to wipe out like 79% of it before the hurricane, so she could easily wipe it all out if she wanted to.
Yeah, you got to get like Contra or in Hatch. That actually is the way our economic system works.
Well,
It's
yeah, but hold
literally-
on. We've got Trump though on the side, right? He said,
Well, this is the funny-
debt. It's got to go, folks. We're gonna have to say goodbye to that debt.
Yeah,
So
he's woke.
celebrate, folks.
Yeah, when Trump like spends enough time alone, he gets woke and he's like into debt forgiveness, and he like,
Right.
he's
And then
gonna
Seth
free-
Mnuchin jangles his keys in front of his
Yeah.
face, and he
Seth
changes his
Mnuchin?
mind. Whatever. He's Seth. In my mind, he's Seth Mnuchin. I've said that
Yeah,
a
he
bunch of
does
times.
look more like a
He looks
Seth.
like a Steph.
Strike two, Matt. Strike two.
He looks like a
Blackfish,
Seth. Fuck off.
The blackfish. the
Mnuchin.
blackfish is Brendan Tully.
Yeah. Oh, that's you got that right. Another.
Wait a minute. When did I say that?
you said
wrong?
blackfish instead of whitefish energy.
Oh, whatever. Who gives a shit?
Oh,
Oh, now
makes
he's
mistake.
forgiving. Oh, this is just like
That is a misspeaking.
This
That is
is-
not a pathological.
this is just like when we give
mispronunciation. Those are two different things.
This is just like when we give Houston a grant for their hurricane and make Puerto Rico go in debt.
Yeah. No, but sorry, we mentioned this on the show in an earlier episode. But the funny thing with Trump right after this hurricane is that he did initially come out to just be like, "I'm sorry, the debt, it's got to go," and the Wall Street guys, they're going to be left holding the bag. And then there was this weird like back and forth of all the people around him trying to walk that back.
It was such a weak walk back though. They literally said, "Oh, but he didn't mean it literally. Like, don't take his words literally." But it still affected like the market. Like his words had an actual impact.
I love that because like Gary Cohn and Steve Mnuchin, like two of the high-ranking Jewish members of Trump's cabinet, like after Charlottesville, they're like, "Ooh, that's fine." But then like after Trump is like, your friends are gonna lose 0.2% of their weekly income. They're like, "No, what the fuck? No, don't do it." And that's like the only time they go out on record against Trump is that they're not going to get their vulture debt.
Is to stand up for the principle that these fucking leeches on Wall Street should be able to continue to wring dry a devastated nation.
Yeah.
That's actually that's part of the United States.
I would say it's spineless, but it's actually like, oh, that's like their one principle, that every impoverished colony should pay back guys who have a fourth favorite pair of slippers.
So, Aída, obviously the situation in Puerto Rico is still very dire, but like where do things stand now in terms of this relief money and the issue of grant versus loan and their debt just in general? Are they going to be able to get out from underneath this?
Depends what happens in the next couple weeks.
What's coming up?
Another bill, like they're gonna have to get more money, so I'd be interested to see like how much and how it's allocated and stuff like that.
Like how long is that $6 billion, $5 billion or so to keep their government working? Like how long is that going to float them for?
Not too long. I was shocked at how little money it is. I will never understand how there seems to be endless amounts of money for war, but like all of a sudden like an island is suffering and like.
I mean, at the end of the day, the brutal truth is that there's no value add as far as capital is concerned when it comes to Puerto Rico. They don't get anything out of it other than trying to squeeze this stone for debt repayment. There's no, there's no reason to invest in it.
Yeah, and with the deep state, like there's endless money for appropriations bills for wars because I mean, we always like laugh when the Kurds and the SDF fight each other, and like every force that we backed ends up turning on each other. But like, that's kind of by design a little bit, because it allows those organs of the state to get more and more funding and keep their presence there forever. But unless they could like find a moderate rebel group in Puerto Rico, like there's never going to be a necessity for them to be there, and for anything in Puerto Rico to happen that would allow a board membership at Raytheon. So yeah, just never going to happen.
It does raise the question for me of, I mean, at this point, considering what has happened and how shabbily they've been treated, and how delayed the response to the disaster was, and how laggard it still is, and how much death has sort of been put off in the back burner and out of public consciousness, and how stark the difference in the treatment in terms of funding is for things that happen in Houston or in Florida and things that happen in Puerto Rico. Is there some sense that statehood would be more helpful? Like, should Puerto Rico become a state, if only to avoid this sort of horribly disparate treatment when natural disasters happen?
Yeah, the only two things seem to be, it would be statehood or being annexed by Cuba.
That would be better, because as we all know, Cuba fucking ran rings around basically every other Caribbean country when it came to responding to the hurricanes.
Was anyone there talking about statehood and as it regards to the hurricane?
Yeah, actually, I had a really good conversation this one night with these two random people. They were already like arguing about statehood very loudly, and so I joined. I was like, "Ooh, I want to listen." And there seems to be like this fear among like Puerto Ricans that like statehood would mean like losing something very important about their culture. So it seems like that's part of the reason why some of them aren't too keen on the idea. And
yeah, understandably.
Yeah.
But man, they are getting so fucked right now.
Mm-hmm.
Something I've heard from maybe the less savory corners of the hashtag resistance is that there is a silver lining to this grotesque humanitarian disaster.
Right.
Yeah,
That this will inspire a large number of Puerto Ricans to emigrate to places like Florida, which is a swing state that went for Donald Trump and thus changed the electoral calculus. While you were there, did you see or hear much about, emigration, people just wanting to leave?
People don't want to leave. People love Puerto Rico. They're a very proud people who are proud of their island, and they love it there. And I think a lot of them soon are going to have to make the really difficult decision to leave or stay, because one of the biggest problems everyone's talking about is schools. Like, what happens when schools are closed? Like, your kid has nothing to do all day, and they're going to fall behind. And so there's that. And then also another thing that isn't completely obvious but is like making people leave is a lot of nursing homes like kicked people out like during the hurricane and stuff. And so because people just don't have the resources in their house to like take care of their like grandma or mom or whatever who has like Alzheimer's or is in a wheelchair, like they'll just go to mainland US because they have to out of necessity. And so thousands have already left, and I think as things like continue to stay rough, like more are going to leave.
But we just need to make sure that they only go to Florida or other swing states, and that they just keep at the forefront of their mind the single most important thing, which is voting in 2020.
Yeah,
Hillary 2020.
Yeah. Hey, Puerto Ricans, you remember how much Obama helped you out with your debt crisis? Well, time to return the favor.
I actually noticed that a lot of Puerto Ricans like really, really, really fucking love Bernie. It was really weird.
Really?
Like,
They're
yeah.
white. That made them white. They're white now.
Because Hillary won the Puerto Rican primary by a pretty big margin, if I remember correctly.
They were just like weirdly enthusiastic about him. They'd like ask me, "So why are you here?" I'd be like, "Oh, well, I'm covering like the aftermath of the hurricane. Also going to spend a day with Bernie." And they'd be like, "Bernie's coming? ¿Dónde está Bernie?" Like,
I would just like to say that the millionaires and the billionaires are not the only one that should be allowed access to gasolina.
oh my god.
Aída Chávez, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
If you're
Thanks.
interested, you can check out her work at the Intercept. Aída, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we are back, and for the second half of the show, I am proud to announce, I think I think this is a first maybe on Chapo. I'm super excited for it because I can sit back, relax, and just, pick my spots. But I think this is the first ever Matt Christman-led reading series.
Ooh,
Matt,
that's right,
let's
folks.
kick it off.
Yeah, strap in. So this weekend, the Washington Post published an article that gave me a brain aneurysm.
Unlike all the reading series that I did.
Unlike all the other parts of the body that might have an aneurysm.
Those are all pulmonary. This is my first brain one. So the Washington Post has realized, as well they should, because they are one of the stewards of our discourse. They understand that democracy dies in darkness. And so they said, hey, people seem to really be having a problem with democracy these days. They're not really into it the way that they used to be. They're all suspicious and tribal and filled with rage towards their fellow American instead of working together in a common civic project. What's the deal? So they decided, we're going to fix it. And so they put a piece out in their magazine called Fix This Democracy Now, 38 Ideas for Repairing Our Badly Broken Civic Life. So they essentially asked 38 random dickheads, what would you do if you had total power to make America a more civically engaged place where democracy worked?
I wouldn't say they're random dickheads. I said this is a fairly self-selected sample.
I wish it was random. I wish it was random.
People
It'd be way more interesting if it was just people out of the phone
These are the
book.
people the Washington Post regard as serious thinkers.
Yes, exactly. So the way it starts is, in his study of 19th century American democracy, Alexis de Tocqueville explained his mission this way. By the way, any article starts with a de Tocqueville quote, fuck them. They suck. Shut the fuck up about fucking de Tocqueville. Find another asshole to fucking quote. An article about American democracy that starts with de Tocqueville is exactly as hack as starting an essay with Webster's Defines. It's the exact same thing. Quote, I undertook to see, not differently, but further than the parties, and while they were occupied the next day, I wanted to ponder the future. Nearly 2 centuries later, all of us, Republicans, Democrat, Trump supporter, Trump critic, should be able to agree that some future pondering about the state of our democracy is in order. In so many ways, the underlying conditions of U.S. democracy need repair. Among American citizens, ideological and philosophical divisions seem insurmountably sharp. Among their representatives in Washington, compromise appears impossible. And so, as we approach the one-year anniversary of the election, we asked dozens of writers and artists to look beyond the day-to-day upheavals of the news cycle and propose one idea that could help fix the long-term problems bedeviling American democracy. The result, 38 conservative, liberal, practical, creative, broad, specific, technocratic, provocative solutions for an unsettled country.
I will say, though, having gone through this whole list, the one thing missing from it is anything even vaguely left-wing.
No, well, that's what we're going to get to. The thing is, they mostly asked a collection of either hard right, snake handling maniac writers or centrist dickheads. That's basically everyone they asked. There's a few exceptions, but that's about it.
Those are the two genders.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through all of these because there are 38 of them, but I'm going to go through the best of them. There are a couple that are actually kind of smart technocratic fixes to electoral systems that could be useful. Like one pair says, require everyone to vote, like they do in Australia. That's not a bad idea. Way more people should vote. Way more people should be civically involved. I mean, good luck getting it past a system where one of the parties is explicitly committed to reducing to as low a number as possible the number of people who vote. But you've identified a real issue.
Sure.
And another person says instant runoff voting. Also, good idea.
Yeah.
I would add that Australia has both of them, and they are also still a right-wing hellhole. But
They have a prison island.
Yeah, it is a prison island filled with Matt Brady's.
I think
it's understandable that it's kind of a shithole.
But their prison island has a prison island of.
They are a prison island with their own prison island. It's like what the fuck?
Super jail.
No, it's like super jail. It's also like Exhibit. Yo, dog, you like prison island?
Well, no,
I got a prison island on your prison island.
That's the thing about Australia. Every time we talk to Matt Brady about it, he's like, "Yeah, we have the soccer party." The Father's Right soccer party. Like, they have all these fragmented weird parties. Yeah. But I think that's less an indictment of the system and more an indictment of Australia, because it reminds me of the show Oz. They just have a bunch of different prison gangs, and the prison gangs are like...
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah, the racism part.
Australia essentially was an experimental prison like Oz.
Yeah. Ted Australia, the first president of the nation, he was like McManus, and Adebisi was everyone else.
But what actually Trump said
have
all
little
is
hats?
they get sausages when they vote.
They do.
So I'm all for it. The
No,
Australian
and I would
system.
be down if you got a delicious sizzling sauso. Sauso, they call them that because it's a country of morons.
Yeah, every Australian thing sounds like a drunk racist guy imagining what Spanish is, because it's just like a shorter version of an English word with an O at the end.
It's true. They call bottle shops, alcoholic bottle shops, bottle-os. And they call members of biker gangs bikies.
Deus Volt. This is the West.
All right, so we've got a couple, so those are the only ones that are actually useful.
But like they represent like astonishingly small bore ideas.
Oh, absolutely.
For about like, you
and
know,
those are the best of them. is what I'm getting at.
this is just about like reforming like the actual voting process,
Yeah, right.
not our democracy in any kind of big or
Exactly.
abstract sense.
No. For example, one of these people says there should be a class in high school called Identity 101.
Identity Europa 101.
I would like to know more.
In the interest of a more functional nation, I propose a new high school requirement. Every student should be required to take not a course in foreign culture, but a course in the nature of culture, on metaculture. We could call it Identity 101. What part of identity is culture? Where does our culture come from? How has it helped us? Do we have selves independent of culture? Does anyone? How can we know what our culture is? Is our culture immutable? Do you smell toast? My arm hurts.
How is culture formed?
And when I was in high school, a teacher told me there were like 5 races: the white race, the brown race, the black race, the yellow race, and the red race. And that guy would definitely be teaching the fucking
Absolutely. Imagine the disinterested reactionary gym coach who you would have teaching Identity 101 in most American high schools.
Yeah, so they got all types of different Chinese now.
I forgot. There's one other type of thing besides just neoliberal tinkering and right-wing snake handling. Just pablum. Just absolute pablum.
This isn't that one was the pablum category.
Oh, well, no. I mean, they say make people take a class. I mean, it's stupid, but it's a thing.
Okay.
This isn't even that. This is really just a lifestyle suggestion. This is like a self-care thing.
Okay.
1 month without social media.
No.
Was
No.
that
I'm vetoing that right
was that
now.
a condition that the writer's wife imposed on him?
Yeah.
No more chatterbait to help America. Not at all a problem that I have personally.
One
I'm
month
fine.
every year, every American is going to have a public meltdown on Twitter, say they're never coming back. Twitter's very toxic right now after they get called out for saying like Big Bird is anti-trans, and then they'll come crawling back after 30 days.
I forgot there's one other type. I keep forgetting the types, but this is the last type. And it is the sad, desperate cry for help. And this comes from Catherine Mangu Ward, the editor-in-chief of Reason Magazine.
It's pronounced Mongo.
What? Really?
It's pronounced Mongo.
Mongo?
No.
All right, whatever.
I'm a ward of the Mongo.
Catherine Mengele
And
from Reason Magazine.
Mango Ward, editor-in-chief of Reason Magazine, suggests to the nation, befriend a libertarian.
No.
Oh my
no,
God.
absolutely not.
Oh my! That is basically like someone being like, "Here's how we're gonna fix America. We're gonna get me a girlfriend."
Here's how we'll fix America. Everyone's going to come over to my house and play video games with me, and I won't be lonely.
I think
All the people from all the different political persuasions come together for a huge party.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest problems with our partisan gridlock right now is the tall 8th grader that keeps knocking the books out of my hands on my way to the Cato Institute.
that one by Catherine Mangu just I think speaks to just utterly obnoxious self-regard of libertarians. When posed with the question how to save America, they answer be friends with me.
Yeah.
That's
Could you read what is her actual justification for be friends with
Oh, it's
libertarians?
just, you know what you already know.
Intellectual
What is
diversity.
no, broad in your
Partisan
mind?
bubble. We're all in a partisan bubble. We need.
They're
to
in
get
a
out of
fucking
it.
partisan bubble.
No, they're not because they aren't partisan.
You're right, they're not- yeah.
They are neither left nor right. So they are the
Sure.
ones who transcend the partisan divide.
Meanwhile, the Cato Institute funded entirely by like psychopathic right-wing billionaires.
Well, of course.
You know, I used to be partisan, and then I became friends with a guy who takes a walking stick to philosophy class and has a wispy beard. And
See, this is it because they really do their self-regard is, as you say, so monumental because they think that they are above regular politics, that all these idiots arguing between left and right are just these simple-minded noobs. So they're saying, hey, if you're stuck in a partisan bubble and you don't understand the other side, get out of your bubble. It says here, on the right and struggling to find out how you'd connect with a blue-haired Occupy Wall Streeter, find a libertarian. We'll grab some burgers and cigars. We can talk about repealing Obamacare and cutting taxes before easing into a conversation about why it might be time to seriously consider reforming our criminal justice system.
A lot going on here, as always, but I'm going to stick with burgers and cigars, that classic combo.
Yeah, we all
I love how every libertarian, they just like learn, they're like, yes, good sir, I'm a masculine good sir, but they learned it from watching Parks and Rec. Like, they all think Ron Swanson is a real guy.
On the left, and finding that Trump fans turn your stomach, consider chatting with someone who will give you a hearty amen when you grouse about his immigration restrictionism and warmongering over a craft cocktail or a joint.
And then say something very disturbing about selling infants or age of consent, and then you leave the bar and never talk to them again.
But can still offer some insight into why a sane person might think environmental regulatory rollback or Social Security privatization is a good idea. Those are both terrible ideas. I'm sorry. I don't need to talk to some insufferable prick like Robbie Suave, a guy who I would rather set myself on fire than be in the same room with, and find out that this idiot has bad opinions. They're all Henry Fonda and 12 Angry Men. They all think that if you get down in the nitty-gritty and have a real exchange of ideas on good faith, you're going to come to some mutually agreed upon compromise between the positions. That is the undergirding faith of all of these people, except for the right-wingers who think differently. Like, for example, R.R. Reno, the editor of First Things magazine.
Woo!
Maniac, tradcath journal of note.
What's his suggestion?
It is
exorcism, common sense, both sides solution.
No, it honestly, he might have gotten this from Father Coughlin. This is some fucking Rwandan hate radio, chop the tall trees shit, which is why it's so interesting when you see it compared to just the milquetoast technocrat.
Compared to befriend children.
The fucking, number 17, befriend children.
Yeah, the tinkering bullshit. So R.R. Reno says, an ill wind is blowing in America. Income inequality is the least of it. It's not the least of it, obviously. This person's insane. In 2015, according to economists Ann Case and Angus Deaton, white men aged 50 to 54 with high school degrees or less were 4 times as likely to die from suicide, drug overdose, or alcohol-related disease as those with 4-year college degrees or more. But you don't need an economist to know that. Go to San Francisco. There you can see the super successful with their discreet tattoos, casual clothes, and vast wealth stepping over youths shooting up in BART stations and ragged battalions of homeless people waiting to die. Our post-60s culture is like our post-80s economy. It's pretty good for the rich and powerful. It's hell on the poor and weak. The elites are to blame. A moral and spiritual revival might restore a consensus that encourages dignity and decency, but the good people like us who have been running things for the past 50 years lack in any inclination to repent. On the contrary, we're pretty darn proud of what we imagine we've accomplished. Today, our most realistic goal is an angry cultural populism to match the rising economic populism. Who ruined marriage? Who normalized drug use? Who defended the rights of pornographers? Who celebrated transgression?
Who controls the British crown? Who keeps the metric system down? We do. We do.
Who is responsible for ruining the lives of so many? These questions are not very difficult to answer. Those responsible are not evangelical pastors in Texas. A fish rots from the head down. Political correctness ring fences the authority of the good people, deriding as bigots any who dare to challenge them.
He should just say Jews here.
Yeah, just say us all sometime.
Yeah.
I love this is perfect though because the entire thing is like it's lame, like limp dick centrist libs who are like, you know, to have dialogues with people. What if there was an app for voting? And also like we're gonna give space to the conservatives to talk to. And the first thing they do is like the Hebrew has a extra bone in his body that helps him destabilize society by putting gays on TV.
Well, I mean, like my question to Double R, as is with most of these tradcaths, is like, how do they imagine that this moral and spiritual revival is actually going to happen?
Well, the way it starts is the time has come to hound our cultural establishment from public life. I recommend starting with Harvard, the New Yorker, and Silicon Valley CEOs.
I mean, I recommend starting with them too.
Well, no,
like,
they suck. But like, how insane is it?
What does that mean to him practically?
Chop
the Inquisition.
Like First Things Magazine exists to hound cultural elites. It's had zero effect because they have like 300 subscribers.
He's saying like if he could wish him into a cornfield, he would. But the thing is, his first paragraph is all about actual concrete results of rampant inequality in terms of people with the high school degrees being vastly more likely to die because of the lack of opportunities, and he puts the blame on the fucking New Yorker
and pornography.
Like, that is the essential insanity of these weirdos.
I mean, the New Yorker is to blame for co-signing a lot of awful, like the Iraq War, or a lot of like neoliberal reforms in their political writing. So I'd say they're guilty, but just not in the way RR imagines.
Well, of course, but like, yeah, I mean, but that's just it. Is that it's always this insane. They have this cultural explanation, and then there's just a huge question mark in the middle of like, how did that get to? And it's all fairy dust.
He's mad at people with discrete tattoos.
Yeah, discrete tattoos.
Yeah, he wants everyone to have the Yakuza tattoos. And then when we get that done, gay people are going to stop forcing white people to be addicted to heroin.
Yeah. And like I said, a lot of the liberals are identifying real problems, but their solutions are so pathetically small bore. For example, this person, Alec McGillis from ProPublica, acknowledges economic segregation in housing is really, really dramatic now, right? Because of the vast disparity in housing prices depending on neighborhoods and stuff. Solution: allow garage unit rentals.
Does that sound like what I think it is?
Yeah, it means rich people should be able to rent their garage for poor people to live in.
It sounds like this person just has a garage and they want to do something with it.
It does sound like that. That's exactly what it is. Another person says, establish National Unity Week.
What?
What the fuck? We have that. It's called Sweeps Week.
Yeah. No, that's it. It's literally just have a week where we all say we're united and talk about what unites us.
Well,
That's
I
it.
like that idea. I think it'd be fun.
If we got the week off work, then fuck
no,
yeah.
No, not the week off work. Maybe like one day off for like the big like finale Unity Day. But every day would have a different theme, and there'd be like costume Unity Day where you dress up as the gang of six, and
you could be the singing senators.
Oh
yeah.
Oh wait, there's a national Washington Steps concert. Capitol Steps. Fucking shit. I'm injured today. I don't have it.
I get it. And then now this is another one that's very, very revealing. So one of the people they ask is Avik Roy, who is basically the only health wonk of any standing who endorsed the Obamacare repeal and said that it was good policy. And his not surprisingly, his suggestion is to basically abolish the Congressional Budget Office, because the Congressional Budget Office came out and scored it and said, yeah, it's going to kick 30 million people off of healthcare. And he says, yeah, you know what? I think this thing needs to be reined in. So once again, a conservative pointing at a specific policy that will destabilize and make it easier to pass horrendously shitty public policy, as opposed to, national hug a fucking conservative week or whatever. Hug a chud. But yeah, so it's really this fund art centers. Most of the ones
That's
from
by
liberals,
Banksy, by the way.
Yeah, most of these liberal ones are education based. Get an app that teaches you civics, or a class that teaches fucking culture, whatever the fuck that means.
Because if people were smart, they would agree with me and not have these animalistic grievances that drive our politics.
Exactly. They all think that all of these atavistic idiots who are on Facebook talking about Seth Rich would be different if they'd had a different class in high school. Because as we all know, everything we learned in high school has stuck in our head like a fucking steel trap.
So the Washington Post, they have Avik Roy and two people from Reason. Who's the most left-wing person that's on this list?
There's somebody I haven't heard of who
Werner von Braun,
who wanted to create a constitutional equality amendment that would ban racism, basically. That's probably the most left-wing person. But then they also have John McWhorter saying, stop obsessing about white privilege.
But no one on this list was like, there shouldn't be billionaires anymore, and we should take all their money.
No, of course not.
No. Yeah.
In the Washington Post, absolutely not.
No. Instead, you've got Arlene Hochschild, who has written for The Nation and stuff, saying her suggestion: redefine the flag.
What? Wait, so she wants a new flag?
I don't know if she even wants it to be differently looking. She just wants it to have a different definition. Because not every
drivel. I mean,
it's drivel.
That means nothing.
Yeah. Maybe it's time to stretch the meaning of the American flag from emblem of sacrifice to symbol of that for which we would sacrifice. A system that allows no person, even a president, to put himself above the law.
That's not a real suggestion. That's just a wish.
It's gibberish. That's all it is. It's liberals wishing on a star and conservatives sharpening machetes. That's what these fucking things are.
So it's Leslie Knope and it's Goebbels.
Yeah. There's another one from somebody from Brookings, of course, calling for peer review for candidates. What they mean by that is they want a panel of former office holders to basically determine the fitness for office of people running for office.
I can't wait till Donald Trump is on that board.
Wildly undemocratic.
But no. Yeah. The thing is, they're not even saying that they have a veto power. They're just saying people would know what they thought. So the real thought, this person genuinely thinks that if there'd been some council of elders who had pronounced from on high that Donald Trump was unfit for office, it would have changed a single vote.
We already have that. It's every time the ex-presidents get together to dedicate like a new rideshare charity for Haiti, and they're like, racism is bad, and it gets 500,000 retweets.
Actually, okay, I have my perfect suggestion that's like, of a par with all the Brookings Institute and all of the sort of liberal suggestions that we've heard on this list. It's homework for everyone.
Ooh, that's a good
one. And homework doesn't stop when you're a school kid or a student. Every week, every adult in America has homework assignments doled out by think tanks.
Here's what. Let's apply the scientific method to voting.
Well, okay, that's perfect. That leads into there's two more I want to talk about that perfectly encapsulate everything that's insane about this and why we're all fucked. One of them, speaking about voting, is from Eric Posner, professor at the University of Chicago, who writes, "We need to create a system of voting credits."
Oh, God.
His basic belief is that all votes are equal and that's bad. You should get more credit for the votes you think are more important. So you get a certain amount of voting credits every year, and then you get to allocate them on the votes you take over the course of that year. And then so they're weighted depending on the import that you give them.
Okay, watch 50% of America's voting credits go to bringing the McRib back.
I just like this because, like you said, on the one hand, it's Avik Roy, who is dedicated to just deleting Medicaid, or any kind of social welfare or regulation, and then the other half is just people who are like, teacher, you forgot to assign homework, or I did the extra credit.
Half of this list is still taking spitballs off of the back of their heads from homeroom 30 years ago.
I got an idea. Post all legislation to Reddit.
Wait, okay, I got one. Everyone has to go into one of the Michael Hudson's threads of Facebook guys and befriend one of them.
That is a good idea.
That actually is a good idea. I call Saman. I'm befriending Saman.
But he's not American. You can't befriend Saman.
Fuck this list. I'm leaving.
All right, so this is the last
solutions.
one. This is the last one I want to talk about because it, to me, is so emblematic of what we're dealing with here. And it's by Farah Pandith, who is a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. And the headline is A Marshall Plan for America. Now, you hear that and you think, actually, that sounds great. Because what was the Marshall Plan but a massive transfusion of capital to war-torn Europe that rebuilt it in the aftermath of World War II?
But he actually means the Marshall McLuhan Plan.
In the Marshall Mathers Plan.
No, that's an even better plan.
So you think, okay, cool. We're talking about some sort of massive infrastructure project, some sort of thing that puts people to work and deals with our huge infrastructure deficiencies.
Trains,
something, anything that actually
exists in physical reality
and interdicts with the absolute collapse of the American economy as a thing that works for regular human beings. But this is what this person actually means by domestic Marshall Plan. I propose launching a domestic Marshall Plan dedicated to rebuilding a nation of good citizens.
Oh, fuck me.
The public and private sectors would come together around a national civic plan designed with incentives to deepen honest and open relationships across communities and the nation as a whole. Tapping the latest knowledge about human behavior and committed common purpose, this plan would support specially trained local teams to scale a broad set of community-driven, public-spirited programs. Among other areas of focus, these programs would work to expand knowledge of civics and unvarnished U.S. history, produce practical skill development in the areas of listening, empathy, and compassion, and promote an ethos of civility and good works.
You want RAs. You want RAs on every block in the country.
This is literally a harebrained plan to just for this guy personally to get more retweets when he asks the president why he doesn't have any decency.
Yeah, but hold on, though.
This is
Hold on. You haven't heard everything. The National Civic Plan would take advantage of America's entrepreneurial culture and the latest social media technology, reconnecting Americans with a multi-layered experience of good citizenship. So this is like it's just like a fucking pitch for like a new social media website. Basically, it's just a collection of absolute buzzwords: civil, entrepreneurial culture, social media, public spirited, absolute drivel.
What if there was some sort of official governing body that could verify facts for people that they come across in the media?
Oh my God! I think you might be onto something.
What if there was? I mean, this is just gonna end up being FetLife. Proposing like a WPA for FetLife, but it's while you get tied up, somebody reads you Joseph Welch's testimony.
Yeah. So this whole thing, it really put me in mind of Yeats's Second Coming. I mean, it really is the best lack all conviction and the worst are filled with passionate intensity. Only the best are asshole STEM lords and lanyard liberals. And their political horizons have been so fucking limited by neoliberalism that they cannot imagine any kind of fix or change beyond just these Sunsteinian behavioral nudges and education. And whenever they fucking talk about education like that, it just means they have no fucking other ideas. That's just a placeholder. They're veal calves. I mean, they think that the little pen that they live in is the entire world.
I already suggested making billionaires like not a thing anymore. Making every billionaire into a millionaire.
Right. And then people might say, well, that's not about civics. But it's like, yeah, having billionaires drastically, violently mutilates our civic culture.
I would say 4-day work week just to start. That would be my big idea to fix America would be to make Friday part of the weekend and have official 3-day weekend for everyone.
No. Make Monday part of the weekend because people don't like Mondays. People like
No.
Fridays.
You got to make Thursday the new Friday.
No, fuck you.
There's always going to be a Monday.
Guys, you know what you need to do?
There's always going to be a Monday.
You guys need to befriend a libertarian. He'll help you figure out a compromise.
And then all three of you need to befriend a child.
Well, you boys want to talk a little electoral politics?
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Only if the candidates befriend libertarians.
Folks, this Tuesday is the exciting midterm elections. If you're in New Jersey or New York, better get ready to vote. You're in St. Petersburg, you're picking a new mayor. And if you're in the state of Virginia, you're picking a new governor, lieutenant governor, and the entire lower house of delegates. The most dramatic race going on right now is the Virginia governor's race between Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam and Republican Ed Gillespie, who used to be the head of the RNC and has never held any electoral office, despite coming close to beating Mark Warner in 2014.
He basically he's running the McAuliffe playbook because he was the same deal. He was the DNC chair who then became governor of Virginia.
McAuliffe was like the consummate Clintonite insider who somehow they managed to push him over the finish line in 2013, breaking a string since the 1970s where the party in the White House would lose the Virginia governorship.
Right. And this is a state that Hillary won narrowly.
Yeah.
And where Trump is very unpopular and where you would think
sub 40%
there would be
rating.
A very strong headwind against a Republican getting that office.
And as well in special elections throughout the country, there has been a surge in people coming out to vote for Democrats just because of their general opposition to Trump.
But what's happening with the polls?
Yikes. Ralph Northam started out the race with a sizable lead in most polls, something between 10 and 8%. As of the past week, it's about a 50-50 race if you average them.
What happened?
Some polls show Gillespie up, a couple show Northam up, and a few have it 50-50. What happened is Gillespie started running what I like to call the blood and soil playbook. He began by running ads talking about how MS-13 is going to come into your communities and have sex with your white daughter and then flee to a sanctuary city established by Ralph Northam.
Right, because they basically pitch sanctuary cities, instead of being what they are, which is just a city that does not report people who are arrested to the feds for their immigration violations. Instead, they basically pitch it as a place where there are no laws, where it's the purge 24/7, and nobody goes to jail for anything.
Richmond, Virginia, no law at all.
Well, so how did Northam respond? I mean, it's always good to work exactly in the confines your opponent gives you, right? And I'm assuming that's what Northam does.
So a little more, there's a few other memorable Gillespie spots involved a program instituted by McAuliffe that is a good program to restore the voting rights of felons, because that is something that disenfranchises tens of thousands of people in the state. Gillespie ran an ad showing a child molester who looks like a child molester and saying, Ralph Northam wants this guy to vote and also have sex with your children.
Last year, Terry McAuliffe and Ralph Northam instituted the automatic restoration of rights for violent felons and sex offenders. One of these felons, John Bowen, had his rights restored 2 months after being found with one of the largest child pornography collections in Virginia's history.
And the response to the first big Northam ad that I saw was about a couple months ago, and it showed him saying, just looking right at the camera, saying, I'm a pediatrician. I believe in solutions. I don't like a lot of what Donald Trump is doing, but if he wants to work together to help Virginians, I'm going to work with him.
Awesome.
Great. I mean, this campaign has been like the Mr. Show sketch where the one supermarket just alleges that the other one has rats and turds in their produce, and the guy's like, we don't have turds. I don't know why they're saying it.
It's the Fairsley difference.
This week at Fairsley Foods, Circle O's cereal is only $3.49 a box. And at Fairsley, you can shop comfortably, knowing your children will not be abducted, then shipped off to a Pakistani whorehouse, where they'll spend the rest of their lives in homoerotic servitude. Come in with your kids, leave with your kids. That's the Fairsley difference.
So as the polls tightened, Northam panicked, and then he said, I believe this was at a debate last week, he said, well, shoot, if a bill to ban sanctuary cities comes across my desk, by the way, there are no sanctuary cities in Virginia. This is outside the purview of the governor of Virginia. I sure as hell would sign it.
Hell yeah.
Awesome, dude.
Rather than challenge the insane agitprop, bullshit idea of what a sanctuary city is and actually try to explain a concept, just buckle under immediately to the way they frame it.
Yeah, I mean, if you are an undecided voter, you're definitely coming out because Ralph Northam got up there and said, I am voting against the white genocide bill that doesn't exist.
Well, pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's finding middle ground, and you have the people...
He read the list!
You have the people who, in the western part of the state, who believe that Taco Bell is coming to take over their schools, and they'll hear that milquetoast compromise and go, all right, he's got my vote. This guy is way better than the Republican who's giving me literally everything I want to hear right now.
Well, that's what's so, to me, if Gillespie wins, and even if it's very close, it's so... sad to me because basically he's running the Trump playbook, but the sort of the silver lining to the Trump approach is that it had the side effect of sort of creating a backlash if you go full white nationalist, because then you sort of undermine your credentials as a mainstream political figure. But but the way you overcome that if you're a guy like Trump is by being an outsider with his own celebrity and his charisma, and that sort of overcomes that. Gillespie is the consummate insider, scumbag, piece of shit, beltway, not in any way an outsider to anything.
Of the I guess kind of bizarre form of charisma, I guess you could understand that Donald Trump
none of
has
Donald Trump's great policies or personality,
but if
or
he
cool
can,
family,
if this
or
guy
Jared
can run the blood and soil playbook as this bloodless piece of shit inside operator and have it be accepted by those voters because of the failure of the Democrat to push against it, then we're absolutely fucked because these guys can win anywhere then.
Well, yeah, I mean, it will be the same thing, though. It won't be a wave of Gillespie support, just like it wasn't a wave of Trump support.
Right, but it'll be enough to fucking keep it close enough to keep their plurality everywhere.
Well, the race, obviously, the Northam campaign has fired back with tough talk of their own. I didn't see this ad, but I believe it was Nate Cohns of the New York Times saw a recent Northam ad and said, wait, how are you doing an attack out on Gillespie as being an insider and not use the words establishment or swamp or anything like that? A big reason is because Northam is using the same firm that did John Ossoff's ads.
Oh, hell
yes. Hell yes.
That giant slayer, John Ossoff.
Ed Gillespie is bringing back Leni Riefenstahl to shoot his ads, and fucking Northam is just giving people his Snapchat barcode.
Now,
this is fucking awesome.
Now, this is something for all of you. I don't think any of you have seen this. So, Hotline Josh, friend of the show.
Oh, hell yeah.
My man.
Quoted someone saying, this is the closing message for Virginia Dems. And this guy, Jared Leopold, communication director at DemGovs, said, this is the closing message.
As governor, I'll move Virginia forward by bringing people together. We need to keep Virginia's economy growing by teaming up with business to provide vocational training and apprenticeships for jobs that are available right now. And we need to expand health care, not take it away. As an Army doctor and pediatrician, I know we accomplished the most by working together.
His response to saying, you want to give voting rights to child molesters is, well, as a pediatrician, I want to team up with businesses to give tax credits for blacksmith jobs.
I want to make you fucking assholes have to go back to school. Hey, you thought you got done with school when you were 18 and it sucks? Well, guess what, motherfucker? You're going back at gunpoint if you want to ever eat again.
So, what are your guys' official predictions for?
Well, you know where I'm going.
Yeah,
we know where you're
Gillespie
going.
will win. We live in hell world.
This race is extremely important because Republicans have huge majorities in both chambers of the Virginia state legislature. And if it's gerrymandered to hell, there's nobody is predicting that Democrats will win back at least one chamber, even though once again, all 100 seats are up in the Virginia House of Delegates. If they did win, that would be very good. If Northam loses, that means Republicans will have control of all three branches of government, which means they will gerrymander Virginia so that it sends like 10 Republicans and 3 Democrats to the House for the next decade.
And they'll finally outlaw pedophilia in Virginia.
My prediction is, and again, I find it so hard to resist, Matt's pessimism, which has proven correct.
It's true. I am 100 for 100 so far.
But I'm going to say Northam by 1.5.
Yeah, I'm going Gillespie and a squeaker.
We'll come back for a midweek show, which will be after Tuesday, after Election Day, and we'll see what happens. However, before the show ends, it is Election Day on Tuesday, and I have 3 endorsements that are these are my real endorsements here that I'm giving you for Chapo listeners.
1, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Congratulations on consolidating your power. 2,
No, this is for
Saad Hariri.
This is
new
for
Prime Minister of Lebanon. 3, Bashar al-Assad.
Felix, you'll have a chance to do your own show about issues.
I am doing my own show with Derek Davis in the middle of the week about Saudi Arabia for all the people who are asking.
No, this is for Chapo listeners in New York City. Okay, first of all, if you are in Manhattan, if you're a registered vote in Manhattan.
If you are, well, la-dee-da.
Oh, yeah.
This is for Chapo voters
Don't
registered.
forget to bring your monocle to the voting booth.
In Manhattan.
Come on, Eustace Tilley.
No, I'm serious about this. I'm gonna put a link for it in the show description. I think it would definitely be worthwhile to write in for Manhattan DA Mark Fleidner.
Hell yeah.
Can you spell that, please?
FLIEDNER. He's doing a write-in campaign. I would encourage you to look up Fleidner's actual record. He's the truth, and
he's the real shit.
He's the real deal, and more importantly than anything, he's a listener.
Yes,
I mean, it was close because Cy Vance is also a listener, but Mark is a Grey Wolf subscriber, and you just gotta go. You gotta go.
Mark is a Grey Wolf. He's doing a write-in campaign for Manhattan DA. Like I said, this is a symbolic vote, but it's one that you'll feel very good about doing because Cy Vance is an absolutely corrupt piece of shit. Unfortunately, they're probably, look, just write him in. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, just write him in. You'll feel good about it. Cy Vance is a fucking scumbag who should be in prison, and Mark's a good fucking guy.
Yeah, this is a vote you can be proud of doing.
Yeah.
Number 2, if you're in Brooklyn, in the neighborhoods of, I think, Crown Heights, Prospect Heights, and one more, but check it out. Jabari Brisport for city council in Brooklyn. He's running on the socialist ticket.
The Green Party ticket.
No, he's also on the socialist line. But
that shows indecisiveness. I retract the endorsement.
Jabari Brisport, again, look him up, make your own decision, but I think he's a candidate worth supporting. I think you'd, again, feel good about supporting
before
him.
your last one, let me throw one in. Larry Krasner for Philly DA. He is a reformer, and I hear that he's a very good candidate. I never met the guy. If he wins and does bad things, don't blame me, please.
Yeah, same goes for Fleedner or Brisport.
Yeah.
If they
we are not responsible for anything they might do once in power.
Last but not least, and probably my most serious endorsement of this election for everyone in New York City, Bo Dietl for mayor.
Hell, that's absolutely right. He has the experience. He is a tough cop. He doesn't eat his classic New York steak with a fork and knife.
This guy, he went into every Arby's in this country and made sure that the meat was up to code and delicious, and that they were smoking it for the required 15 hours.
Dude, Bo knows New York.
So I want to give my personal endorsement. I don't agree with him on everything, but he's an old friend of mine, Ed Gillespie, for Virginia governor.
Damn it.
I'm just friends. I'm friends with him. I've known him for a while.
He was cool.
He was cool. He came out against sanctuary cities. We spent millions of dollars on anti-immigration ads. Can we close the show with the fucking Eric Paddock video, please?
Last plug. I spoke
Eric
about
Paddock.
it last week. Tickets are still available for our second show at the Bell House for Brooklyn Podfest. Again, look for the link in the show description. Last but not least,
it's gonna be an okay show.
Yeah.
Last but not least,
about Brendan. He was cool.
Last but not least, I'm sure you may have seen this yesterday. We've known about this for a while, but now it's officially been announced. Okay, Brendan has his version of events, but here is the official Chapo line. Ex-producer, ex-friend, Brendan James, he was fired for... Okay? If that's what you want to know, if you're asking about Brendan,
if there are depositions and some sort of action later, we're all going with that. So good luck, buddy.
This is the official line on Brendan is, we have to get rid of that goofy.
Yeah, no, we had to stomp Brendan out. we found Brendan. We went into his room once in the house where we all live, and he was Googling Goofy's wife with tits out. And we were like, that's so fucked up, Brendan. And he was like,
very disrespectful to Goofy's wife.
Yeah, it's like instead you should be looking up the drawing where he goes, "Wow, Queen, you're so beautiful," and they're wearing all their clothes.
No, in all seriousness, no. Brendan has made the choice to get off the SS Chapo to partake in future endeavors on his own. It's bittersweet for us because we've loved working with Brendan, and to quite honestly, the show never would have had the success it's had without him.
Absolutely not.
Brendan was a absolutely integral part of the show for our run so far. And
so it's all downhill from here.
Shut up.
Brendan was a dime.
Yeah, Brendan was thick. He was woke. He was a thought. Brendan was a fucking nasty hoe and a pimp. Brendan was a fucking straight up rural style baller. My kind of guy.
No, again, to be serious, once again, we wish Brendan the best of luck on this next stage in all his endeavors. He will absolutely be missed, but Chapo rolls on, and nothing but love to our number one thought, Brendan James.
We miss you. We will miss you forever, Brendan. We'll actually probably see you next week, but as someone who's part of the show,
he's dead.
We'll watch the neighborhood. Yeah. We'll watch the neighborhood. You watch the skies.
Yeah. Brendan is up there with our other friends like Gaddafi, Uday Hussein,
Those
Saddam
are your
Hussein.
friends. Those are not my friends.
My friends are your friends. That's what marriage is about.
God damn, I knew people would be confused when we called ourselves partners. Stop doing that.
So, nothing but love to Brendan James.
Nothing but love.
And to you, the listener.
And to you, the listener.
And to libertarians.
Yeah, and to children. I'm a pediatrician.
You know, most people in rural Virginia hear I'm a pediatrician and think that guy fucks kids.
Yeah.
So yes, Brendan James, he was cool.
He spent thousands of dollars of sushi with us.
He